Well, it's Saturday night, the night before game day in Week 11 as the Eagles take on the Green Bay Packers at historic Lambeau Field. 2 years in a row they've gone to Green Bay, and the Eagles and Packers seem to match up quite a lot during seasons. The NFL likes to have those two play one another, it seems. But anyhow, the Eagles getting ready to take on Aaron Rodgers and Clay Matthews and the Green Bay Packers, and a game that should be very good. It should be a pretty hard fought game for either side. It's the game of the week, I believe, on Fox, and the Eagles, again coming off that win over on Monday night against the Panthers, so a bit of a short week for the Eagles, but they are coming off a win, a 45-21 win over the Panthers, and a dominant win at home, and now, of course, are in Green Bay. As for the game itself, what my predictions for it are, it's going to be a really tough game for the Eagles. It's probably going to be against one of the toughest opponents they've played so far, being not only that the Packers play good, at home and everything like that, but it's also, the fact that it is on the road and it is, going up against a quarterback that's been really hot of late. And Aaron Rodgers, of course, last week threw 6 touchdown passes in the first half against the Bears at home at Lambeau, and played really well in that game. Obviously, he's had a really nice stretch going the last couple weeks, and the Packers have played pretty well. They've played well. There's been a lot of talk throughout the week on sports channels like NFL Network, and ESPN, and of course local sports talk radio, about the fact that this is a big test, obviously, for both the Eagles and the Packers. The Packers haven't beaten a team this season with a winning record, I believe, if I'm not mistaken on that. They've lost to some teams. They lost to Seattle. They lost at New Orleans, and the Saints are a better home team than they are on the road. But they've had some losses to some decent teams, some teams with winning records. The Eagles are a team with a winning record, of course, 7-2. The Eagles, conversely, have lost 2 games on the road. They lost a tough one at San Francisco earlier in the season, and of course, some weeks ago they lost another tough one to the Cardinals. And both games they lost. A good reason for the loss was because they couldn't score from the goal line. They had trouble at the goal line both games, and went on to lose both of those games in part because they couldn't score from the goal line. Now that was then. This is now. This is an offense that's played really well with Mark Sanchez as quarterback. Of course, Nick Foles is out with the same injury that Aaron Rodgers had last year when the Eagles played at Green Bay and won at Green Bay while I was in India. But Eagles won that game last year, and so the NFL put them back in Green Bay this year. but yeah, so it's funny how last year the Eagles win with Aaron Rodgers out with the collarbone injury that Nick Foles has this year. So this year the Eagles go back to Green Bay, and now it's Nick Foles with the same injury Rodgers had last year, so he's not playing. So I guess one year the Packers have the injury at quarterback, this year the Eagles have the injury at quarterback at Green Bay. But Sanchez has done a pretty good job. He's done a really good job, actually, in relief of Nick Foles. And a lot of people are saying, the Eagles need that signature win. And I think some people forget they won week 2 at Indianapolis, but there's a lot of talk about how the Eagles need that win, since they lost San Francisco, since they lost to Arizona, they need that kind of big win. They've been winning against some teams that aren't doing too great, like the Texans and the Panthers, and but if you ask me, I think, hey, you play who you play week to week. You can't help who's on your schedule. You can't help what the situations are week to week. I mean, the Eagles, in my mind, in my eyes, I should say, have played pretty good really all year with a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries on the offensive line, some key injuries on defense, including D'Amico Ryans. They lose their starting quarterback in Nick Foles, and even though he's been up and down this season, he's been shaky for the most part this season. He's still the starting quarterback, and you lose your starting quarterback. The backup comes in. He's done as good a job as Mark Sanchez has done. The fact that the Eagles have struggled running the ball. Shady McCoy certainly not having the season he had a year ago. Is he capable of rebounding? Certainly. But the big difference, going forward with this team than we've seen in the past is twofold. A, it's the special teams have played awesome. They have the best special teams in the league. B, is that they have this belief. They believe that they can win games no matter what the circumstances are, no matter who's in there, they can still get it done. Now, obviously, you don't want to have too many injuries. You don't want to lose all your pieces, all your main guns. But they have this kind of quiet confidence week to week, game to game, and you see that every week. They have yet to lose to be blown out in a game. They have yet to lose a game like that, and I think this season, so. They've definitely played with more confidence, and you're seeing it week to week. And I think part of that is because of what they did last year. Last year, they weren't really expected to compete for a division title, to make the playoffs. And what do? They go on and they win the division, and they get a home playoff game. Well, they lose the home playoff game, but the fact is they overcame a lot of things and proved a lot of people wrong. And I think that just builds the confidence. So now they're in a situation this year where they're expected to do something, where they're expected to win the division, make the playoffs. And I think you see they're playing with that confidence. And it just shows week to week. Now, you still don't want to, have the injuries that they've had. But that being said, I think there's a lot to be commended for how they've played with the injuries. A lot of teams you see, teams having injuries on the offensive line, guys who started most of the games are out. Key members, the starting center, starting guard, one of the tackles out for the first 4 weeks due to suspension, and that can really cripple some teams and really bring them down. And it's conversely with the Eagles what they did. It's like okay, well we have these guys out, we're gonna put these guys in, and we're still gonna compete at a high level, and that's what they did. And they, like I said, they lost 2 tough games on the road, but they've played, really, really good with all those injuries, in my opinion. So that's one of the things going forward, kind of long story short, and I know I like to ramble, but long story short, going into this Green Bay game, a lot of people are saying the Eagles can't win. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Green Bay, it's all this mystique, there's no way, the Packers are playing too good. Well, the Eagles are playing pretty good too. And the Packers, it's not like they have this steel curtain defense that you can't do anything against, because you can have success against them. Teams have done it this season. And I understand the Packers are a really good team, and I understand that they have one of the best, if not the best quarterback going right now in the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers, as far as how he's playing going into this game. But, that being said, I would not be shocked. It would not shock me if the Eagles go into Green Bay and win, only because a lot of times when a lot of people pick the Eagles to lose, they win. It's like week 2 at Indianapolis. Like I said, in week 2 at Indianapolis, there are games that people just, all the national pundits, even the local, writers and sports talk radio hosts and such say, I think they're going to lose, but, we'll see. I'm picking the Eagles to lose, kind of thing. And everyone's kind of against them. That's when they seem to win. It's like they have no reason to win this game, and then they do. And then on the other side of the coin, there's a lot of games where they're like, oh, this is going to be a blowout. The Eagles are going to win no problem. And they either lose or win like a very close game. That's happened too. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles win this game. But you know what? Before the season, I said they're going to be 11-5. And that was my prediction going into the season and what their record's going to be. Now, hey, I'm hoping that they go, 12-4, 13-3, 14-2. That being said, there has to be some losses along the way. And this is one of those games that, and I know I'm kind of saying against what I've been saying, but I'm going to say the Eagles are going to lose this game by about a touchdown. I think they keep it close. Maybe, like 4-point loss, a touchdown loss. Rodgers gets down the field, or the Eagles are trying to come from behind and just can't get those get that final score to tie it. It's a tough game. The fact the Eagles won there last year, I mean, the Packers certainly have that in their minds. And, a lot of people are saying that about the Packers, too, that, hey, they haven't won a big game so far this year. So I do think the Packers win this game in a close one. And so, yeah, I'm kind of going along with what everyone else is saying. Now, I'm saying that with my mind. I'm saying that with my mind is what I think is going to go down. But with my heart, I certainly want the Eagles to win, and I would certainly hope the Eagles win. And would it shock me if they win? No, because these are the type of games the Eagles are like picked to lose and they win. And they'll lose to Tennessee next week at home, right? But no, it would not shock me at all if the Eagles win this game, and I'm rooting for them. I'm hoping they win. I'm going to be cheering my throat out for them to win tomorrow. But as far as what I'm going with my mind and what I'm going with my pick for the game, I'm going to say the Packers win a close one. And I think it's going to be a lot closer than people give the Eagles credit for. I think some people are probably thinking, the Packers are just going to run up and down the Eagles. Sanchez, he hasn't been tested, this and that and the other thing. So I think the Eagles lose a close one. And 11-5, they have to lose some, right? I can't pick them to win every week, even though I want to. So I'm going to say a close one. But, hey, keys for the game for the Eagles to have success. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, like any other quarterback, you want to get pressure on him. And I don't care how great the quarterback is. We saw Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl last year, right? When you get pressure and when you're in the face of the quarterback, mistakes can be made, or he gets rid of the ball quicker than he wants to, or gets those sacks. The one thing the Eagles defense, the front of the defense has done amazingly at this year's get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. We saw that Monday night against Cam Newton. We saw that, in other games too. This season, they've done a really great job getting pressure on the opposing quarterback and getting those sacks and getting those hurries and hits and knockdowns and all those that you see flash across the street and when they're giving stats for a defense. The Eagles' defense has done a really good job doing that, and it's led to some turnovers. Now their cornerbacks only have a couple interceptions, both came this Monday night, but it's led to turnovers, and it's led to sloppy play on the opposing offenses. And the Eagles have gone up against some pretty decent offenses so far this season. They were able to do a really good job, hold some of them down in check, including some games on the road. And, they have played really well. The other thing the Eagles have done a really good job at this season is stopping the run. Their defense has been awesome against the run. They're probably one of the top run-stopping defenses in the league going into this game, defensively as a unit. They've played really well. Now, losing D'Amico Ryans, again, a big loss. But with that being said, they did a really good job against the Panthers last week against the run. And they rushed Cam Newton and hurried him. And I know Cam Newton's playing... Aaron Rodgers is playing on a different level than Cam is right now. But the fact is, if you can rush the quarterback, if you can get pressure on the quarterback, it will lead to, if not turnovers, certainly punt situations where your defense gets off the field. And last year, the Eagles' defense played pretty good. They played pretty good. They got their share of turnovers, but they did not rush the quarterback very well. And conversely, it kept their defense on the field for way too long during games. This year, they've done a much better job. And it's the rotation. It's guys they brought in. It's guys like Brandon Graham having a great year. This come-out season, who we all say, Eagle Nation, we all say they should have drafted Earl Thomas in that draft over him. And they should have. But kudos to Brandon Graham. You have to tip the hat and give credit where credit's due. He's played amazingly this year. He's really played well. And it seems like he's getting it now. And he's really playing well. He's making some big plays. And, of course, Connor Barwin, who I think should be a Pro Bowler this year. An amazing season so far, playing great. Of course, J.J. Watt's going to win that Defensive Player of the Year, I would imagine. But Connor should get some votes for that, too. He's played that good defensively this season. So that's one of the keys. And on offense, certainly a key is going to be ball control. Keeping Aaron Rodgers and that offense, that potent offense, off the field. Keeping your offense on the field. And I know the Eagles like to do their hurry-ups. Chip's all about, I don't care about the time of possession, but I think in a game like this is going to matter. And last year when the Eagles won, they held onto the ball for the last 8 minutes of the game and put away that game last year. So time of possession is going to be key also for the Eagles offense. Stay on the field, keep Aaron and the Packers offense off the field. That could be a key. So those are ways the Eagles could win this game, even though I'm predicting them to lose a close one. These are ways I can see the Eagles winning. Another reason is special teams. The Eagles' special teams is the best in the league. And if you make any mistake against them, they're going to make you pay. They've blocked punts for touchdowns. They've had returns for touchdowns with Darren Sproles. It's going to be a brutally bitter, cold day at Lambeau, the frozen tundra. It's going to be very cold, and it could mean that, hey, there could be a mistake here and there on the Packers' special teams. Maybe Darren Sproles breaks one. You never know. But anyhow, it's going to be that could be a key also to special teams. The Eagles' special teams have been awesome this year. And, that could certainly, field position, keeping the Packers with bad field position, it's always all going to play a role in what could be a win, even though I'm saying it's going to be a close loss. But these are things that could enable the Eagles to get a win. But anyhow, I've rambled on enough. It's Saturday night. It's going into Sunday, almost game day, and I'm pumped for it. I'm ready, as always, for the game. And the Eagle Nation who's traveling out to Green Bay, bundle up. And hope it's a great game there. That's one of those stadiums that I would like to see someday too, even if it's not like an Eagle game there. Certainly like to go to Lambeau Field and see what it's all about there. But anyhow, the next segment I would imagine would be post game. Maybe I'll have some in-game stuff. I'm not sure, but maybe some highlights of the game. Excuse me. But anyhow, as always, let's go Birds, and I'll see you in the next segment. Well, the late, great Harry Kalas once said, after a tough Phillies loss, all the runs were unearned, but who cares? I don't have any stats in front of me. I don't really have any notes. I never do, but I don't have anything. But who cares? The Eagles go down 53-20 in embarrassing fashion to the Packers. They looked absolutely listless in this game. They were awful. It was my fear going into it, as most Eagle fans were. Going into the season, you do the W's and L's, and this was one of those that, we put an L in because figured, be tough to beat the Packers in Green Bay. Always is. Beat them there last year. That was without Rodgers, but, I had this as a loss going into the season. I have to be honest about it. And I was honest about it before as I did the for the pregame talk. I said I this is going to be a loss. I was hoping that it would be a close game. I was hoping that if they lose, it would be like a 7 or 10 point loss where they played competitive and they were up at playing neck and neck with the Packers. And I said if they were going to win, a couple things would have had to happen. And one is they would have had to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. They didn't. And, as poor as the Eagles' cornerbacks are, you give any quarterback, particularly a future Hall of Famer, that type of time, one-on-ones downfield with a very good receiving core, two great receivers and Nelson and Cobb, you're going to give them a lot of opportunities, and that's what happened. Packers, to their credit, played really well. They converted on 3rd and longs a lot. The Eagles' defense kind of looked like they did last year. Couldn't get off the field on 3rd and long, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11. Just kept converting things, and they kept the Eagles' offense off the field. Conversely, as I said, one of the things the Eagles would have to do is their offense would have to control the clock, stay on the field, keep Aaron Rodgers and company off the field. They couldn't do it. Packers defense got a lot of pressure on the Eagles. They sacked Sanchez quite a few times. Turnovers, interception, fumbles. I mean, you name it. It all went wrong. And they played pathetic. They looked pathetic. Tough one to take, but as a fan, it'd be easy for me to make this series and just make videos after wins. But I said going into this, I'm going to take you through a whole season, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Wins or losses, that's what I'm going to do. And obviously, it's much funner. Is that a word? It's much more fun to make these videos after wins, but after losses, gotta make them too. Tough one for sure. They just were never in this game. I mean, the Eagles had a nice drive going on their first possession. There was a sack. That was a helmet-to-helmet sack, by the way, and they didn't get called. Look, it wouldn't have made much of a difference anyhow. But, a little disappointing the referees not to call that. I think they got away with another helmet-to-helmet later. But, again, that wouldn't have decided the outcome of the game. But Packers just moved the ball at will. There was just many plays for them to have, and they made them. They didn't give up 6 touchdowns in the first half, though, so they did a little better than the Bears did. But a week ago, but still, it was embarrassing. It was a laugh fest for the Packers and their fans, and out in the bitter cold, it's frozen tundra, but they were having a good old time. And how hard is it to be a Packer fan? Really, I mean, try being an Eagles fan. I jest, okay. But anyhow, it was just tough. It was a tough game to watch. I guess the one kind of shining thing from the game is you're seeing the increased development of Jordan Matthews, who had a nice game again, over 100 yards and a touchdown. He seemed to have a really nice rapport with Sanchez going. I'm glad I picked him up in my fantasy team last week. Although I didn't play him this week, but I have a deep receiving core in that league, and I picked up Jordan Matthews and figure I'll play him here and there, and I'll probably start him next week. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. But embarrassing loss, and the Eagles have certainly done this to us over the years. They've they've laid an egg in some games. Last year it was in Denver, and I remember other games like this too. Certainly on worse teams, than this one. I used to play like this a lot. But what can you say? Just a bad game, and the special teams played bad. I mean, they blocked a punt late in the game, but gave up a punt return, and it looked like they had 2 guys there that could have made the tackle, and just bad all around. So the Eagles are now 7-3. Then they got Tennessee coming up. Should be a win, but of course the way they played tonight, it's hard to see them beating anyone. But that's why it's a week-to-week thing. You feel great after beating Carolina on Monday night, and then you go through this. And so, going into next week, don't know really what to expect, to be honest. I would hope they win. I believe they'll win. They've played well after losses. But, tough one to take. I don't really have any X and O's for this one because, what can you say? They just got bullied. They just got taken behind the woodshed, and the Packers taught them a lesson. But Packers are playing really well right now. Full marks to them. They played a great game. And the Eagles didn't. The Eagles just did not show up. It's like the Eagles never even got off the plane for that one. But anyhow, they got the Titans next week, week 12. And then it's a very interesting stretch after that. They got at Dallas on Thanksgiving, then home for Seattle, home for Dallas. So the 3-game set there is going to be very interesting and very telltale about how this season's going to go for them. They can either rebound from this, go on to win the division, have a home game in the playoffs, and see what happens, roll the dice, see what happens, or they can play poorly on Thanksgiving and lose and lose to Seattle and just have the season just go down the tubes. The problem is they don't have tiebreakers versus the other teams they lost to, San Francisco, Arizona. Arizona probably going to win that division, so I don't think that would matter. But San Francisco, now Green Bay, if Detroit still wins the division, Green Bay has the tiebreaker with the Eagles, so that's not looking good. But hey, who knows what can happen going forward? Anything can happen. I mean, things seem to change on a dime in the NFL at times, and I'd love to do the Aaron Rodgers relax, but it's hard after this game. They played so just horrible. They just did. They were horrible, terrible. To quote Charles Barkley, it was embarrassing. But you take the losses. You have to take the losses with the wins. I hope the Eagles play better. I believe they will play better against the Titans. I think they were embarrassed tonight. You could kind of see it in their faces. You see it in Chip Kelly. I mean, he's trying to do his typical Chip thing at the press conference and say, yeah, well, we whatever he goes on, he goes on about, well, we didn't do this right, but we kind of seem to shrug things off. But coach's got to do that sometimes, I guess. But I would imagine they'll play better at home against the Titans. I know Eagle Nation's going to be there loud and proud like they always are, and the Eagles are undefeated at home. So far this season, all three of their losses have been on the road. Again, it's a tough one to take. You want to see this team improve. You want to see them be in these games with these teams. I mean, when they lost to the 49ers and to the Cardinals, they were in those games. And it's not like the Cardinals are blowing people out. The 49ers are, but they were in those games. They had chances to win those games. They just couldn't score from the goal line. Well, this game wouldn't matter. But it's a type of game you want to see them, even if they lose, just be competitive. Play with the Packers. Be on that kind of playing field with them. I've seen the Packers play poorly, at times this season. I saw them playing games where, they weren't doing stuff like this. Defenses were getting to them, and but it is what it is. Eagles go down. Nothing really I could say besides the fact that, it was a tough one to take. It was a real, just horrendous performance by them. And but they did rebound from a performance like this last year after Denver, and hopefully they'll do the same. The difference is this year they have some injuries. And hopefully, those injuries don't just continue to catch up to them, and the season goes down the tubes, because it was, things are looking promising. 7-2. I mean, they're still looking, still promising. 7-3. Hopefully they win. They go 8-3 next week, but going into that big showdown at Dallas on Thanksgiving. But then there we go again. It's another one of those showdown, show me type games, and the Eagles have got to. They won in Indianapolis earlier in week 2, and that was a great win. Not taking anything away from that, but the other show me games they lose. They lose to the 49ers, to the Cardinals. Now they get blown out to the Packers. And I want this team to show up. I want this team to be in and win one of these damn games. So hopefully they do on Thanksgiving. Hopefully they can win a show me type game then, because Tennessee, that's not a show me game. That's okay. You're supposed to beat Tennessee. You're supposed to win that game. But now you go on the road the following week at Dallas, and that's a big show me game, big division. A lot of things riding on that game at that point. They got to come out for that one. Enough of this. Enough of them losing these games. It's come on now. Come on, guys. Wake the F up. But anyhow, all that being said, it was tough. I'm not going to break it down. I mean, hell, this is like one of those type of games that you just burn the footage from and just say, what can you do? Packers were the much better team that night. And sloppy play, just inconsistent. Just, oh, man. Oh, it's like a bad pill. Ugh. So, like bad medicine. Like that cough medicine they had to take. You're sick. You hate it, but you have to just gulp it down real quick. That's what this game was. It's like, ugh, get it out of the system. Anyhow, but I will be back for them, on Sunday. I will listen to all the critiques and stuff on them this week on Sports Talk Radio and on TV and stuff, and take it all in, and then I'll be ready come Week 12 on Sunday, 1 o'clock start at Lincoln Financial Field, where the Eagles haven't lost yet this year, against those Tennessee Titans before Thanksgiving week. And so, as always, even with this tough loss, as always, go Eagles. And okay, go Eagles. I can't do a go Eagles performance like they played tonight. Although it's. And I will see you all in Week 12 for Week 12 of Season of the Fan 2014-15 Philadelphia Eagles. The ride continues, folks. The ride continues. And I'll see you all then. Okay, tough one to take tonight, but it's like that old cough medicine. You just got to gulp it down and just say, okay, got it out of the system. Now let's move on, and hopefully that's what they can do. And all the runs were unearned, but who cares? I'll see you all in the next one.